Hello everyone, this is Mix Awesome Manatee. In today's story, we will review the US election, discuss foreign interference in right-wing media, the outcome of French elections, more unhinged chaos from a belligerent Zionist nation, a lawsuit against Internet Archives, and so much more on MXA News. The election runs close while Kamala tries to out-Republican the Republican candidate. Trump displays more cognitive decline as he regurgitates social media rumors.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
Which J.D. Vance admitted.
The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to, create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast.
You just said that this is a story that you created. So the eating dogs and cats thing is not.
Meanwhile, Kamala Harris's platform includes strengthening border security, further investment in the military-industrial complex, more promises of an economy catering to the middle class, and a renewed Cold War with China.
But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point. When we know that she was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
Leading up to this debate, another Republican tried assassinating Trump. Ryan Routh was a never-Trumper Republican who endorsed Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy over Trump. He had a long history of delinquency and attempted to start a militia in Ukraine to repel the Russian invasion. The gunshot was not Routh's weapon going off. It was the Secret Service preemptively shooting at him. He has since then been detained and charged with attempted assassination. And speaking of the Russian invasion, right-wing media personality Tim Pool was caught with many other right-wing pundits in receiving money from Russia to spread Z talking points. He claims victimhood, despite saying this.
Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation.
What Tim didn't know, he said. Okay, Tim. India pulls out of the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economics Partnership, which is an economic agreement between these countries within the Pacific. India was one of the countries that entered into negotiations, but decided to back out despite being a founding member. There are many concerns, including the impact in the manufacturing sector and China's potential dominance. India already struggles with Chinese imports, and India didn't want another avenue for this to exacerbate. Despite the new Popular Front gaining significant influence within the French Parliament, Macron decides to undermine the popular will and entrench right-wing constraints against the growing tide of socialism. He named Michel Barnier, a right-wing prime minister, as the head. Though there is no majority between the three factions, it's clear where Macron's priorities lie. The new Popular Front placed their choice of a prime minister forward, but Macron finds it more important to appease anti-Semites and anti-immigration voices than to appeal to common sense. Does this mean fighting is useless? No. The opposite, in fact, because if it wasn't for the new Popular Front, France would have had less resistance in pushing anti-immigration policy, and it demonstrates how anti-democratic Macron and many centrists actually are. The more we fight and assert the interest of the masses, the harder it will be for authoritarians to hide their motives. And speaking of deplorable human beings, Zionists found it wise to enact terror against Lebanese civilians via signals that exploded pagers and devices. They claimed that they targeted combatants from Hezbollah, yet they targeted these combatants within their homes, risking civilian life in the process. Small children were wounded by these reckless attacks. Yet the New York Times and many American sources praise this as tactical and celebrate this disregard for human life. It's at this point where these outlets need to be held accountable for encouraging terrorism against civilians. What Israel is doing to Lebanon is considered a war crime and a crime against humanity in every definition. How long is it going to be before Netanyahu thirsts for the blood of American college students? Their bloodlust has no end unless we pressure nations into ceasing funding to the belligerent nation. And it is possible. The UK reduced the weapons they sent to Israel after intense pressure from protests around their country, where thousands demonstrated their solidarity with the Palestinian people. We need to keep the pressure up unless you want Israel targeting your children next. In devastating news for the Internet Archives, the website was sued by Hachette Book Group for copyright infringement. COVID-19 closed off everything, including libraries. The Internet Archives lent digital books to readers in response to this. This was done to fulfill information for teaching, research, and independent scholarship. Let me remind you that this was a temporary measure done during COVID-19. This was not a long-standing permanent activity. But the Hachette Book Group demanding compensation for the period where the website committed acts of piracy. The Internet Archive will pay an undisclosed amount to the Hachette Book Group. What do Nvidia, OpenAI, and Microsoft have in common? The companies are subpoenaed for anti-competitive practices. They did so by limiting how many chips the consumer could buy if they didn't buy additional hardware. Even if they discounted the bundle deals, it was a mandatory purchase. You couldn't just purchase the one product or the one chip. You had to buy additional hardware whether you needed it or not. Microsoft is no stranger to anti-competitive practices. Back in 1991, where they were designing their hardware so it wasn't compatible with software outside their brand. They were busted for this once. We'll see if Microsoft and its conspiring companies get busted for it again. Boeing is not having the best of days. It got 2 astronauts stuck at a space station, 2 people mysteriously dying after whistleblowing against wide doors mysteriously started ripping off of their planes, and now more than 30,000 Boeing employees agreed to go on strike. One person that BBC interviewed said that he had to have 2 jobs to make ends meet. Boeing pays him $28 an hour to attach wings to the plane, but he also has to take up nighttime security. Another employee is concerned with Boeing's lack of safety concern that could hold the manufacturers criminally liable. Every time we make a plane to their spec, we pretty much put our life on the line, because if anything goes wrong, like if it's a torque out of spec or something like that, and potentially the plane goes down, we obviously get jail time for that. This strike also comes after Boeing stripped their benefits and lowered their pay, and austerity measures for the CEO's profit. The employees lose paid sick leave and 401k payouts. They subject the 401k payments to stock value. And as we all know, the stock market is only the most stable force on the planet. In response, Boeing suspended 10,000 employees in response to the strikes in a blatant act of union busting. The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers Union issued debit cards to the striking workers. After the strike past 3 weeks, they get $250 a week to hold them over. Will Boeing see reason? Only time will tell. Remember, viewers, keep fighting the good fight. If you want more, check out my articles on Medium and my posts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching.